Welcome to Stories of Success about Warren Buffett. Today we will talk about CEO of Berkshire Hathaway's political and public policy views. Warren Edward Buffett is an American business magnate, investor, and philanthropist. He is currently the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. He has a net worth of over $102.1 billion as of December 2021. Making him the world's 10th wealthiest person. Buffett is noted for his adherence to value investing, and his personal frugality despite his immense wealth. He pledged to give away 99% of his fortune to philanthropic causes, primarily via the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He founded the Giving Pledge in 2009 with Bill Gates, whereby billionaires pledge to give at least half of their fortunes to charity.
Was my first love, absolutely. I tell the other companies that you compete for my second love, but you can't compete for my first love, which is Geico. It goes back 69 years, and it did wonders for me. Anyway, Geico, Bill Roberts took over a little less 2 years ago, and then in either October or November last year, he said he'd like to retire in a year. He would adjust it in any way that made it easiest for us, and we did not have the person, in my view, to replace him at that point. And Todd Combs has worked with Berkshire now for 10 years.
Buffett endorsed and made campaign contributions to Barack Obama's presidential campaign. Buffett intimated that John McCain's views on social justice were so far from his own that McCain would need a lobotomy for Buffett to change his endorsement. Buffett was also a financial advisor to Republican candidate Arnold Schwarzenegger during the 2003 California gubernatorial election. On December 16, 2015, Buffett endorsed Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton for president. On August 1, 2016, Buffett challenged Donald Trump to release his tax returns. Buffett released his own tax return on October 10, 2016. Healthcare. Buffett compared healthcare costs to a tapeworm, saying that they compromise U.S. economic competitiveness by increasing manufacturing costs. Buffett said, "If you want the very best, I mean if you want to spend $1 million to prolong your life 3 months in a coma or something, then the US is probably the best." He cited Atul Gawande's 2009 article in The New Yorker as a useful consideration of US healthcare, with its documentation of unwarranted variation in Medicare expenditures between McAllen, Texas and El Paso, Texas. Buffett raised the problem of lobbying by the medical industry, saying they are very focused on maintaining their income.
I mean, he had to turn out a couple million cars that other people got to use, and that would not have, in my view, I think if you'd set up a government bureau in 1850 and given them 100 years to develop a car, I'm not so sure you'd have ever come up with anything like the assembly lines of Ford and all of the things that have happened. Human ingenuity is incredible, and you want something that maximizes its use and then curbs a few of the ideas that some of those people may have to sort of have it fall for themselves.
Buffett is a longtime supporter of family planning. The Buffett Foundation has given over $1.5 billion to abortion research, to include $427 million to Planned Parenthood. In 2009, he met with several other billionaires to discuss healthcare, education and slowing population growth. The meeting has drawn criticism from some right-wing alarmists, with some fringe elements believing the group to be a part of a secret sterilization society. Buffett favors the inheritance tax, saying that repealing it would be like choosing the 2020 Olympic team by picking the eldest sons of the gold medal winners in the 2000 Olympics. In 2007, Buffett testified before the Senate and urged him to preserve the estate tax so as to avoid a plutocracy. Buffett believes government should not be in the business of gambling or legalizing casinos, calling it a tax on ignorance. Dollar and gold. The trade deficit induced Buffett to enter the foreign currency market for the first time in 2002. He substantially reduced his stake in 2005 as changing interest rates increased the costs of holding currency contracts. Buffett remained bearish on the dollar, stating that he was looking to acquire companies with substantial foreign revenues. Buffett has been critical of gold as an investment, with his critique being based primarily on its non-productive nature. In a 1998 address at Harvard, Buffett said,
So this has been a very good economy for a long time. I mean, we've been coming back for 8 or 9 years, and businesses kept getting better. Interest rates have been low for business. Stocks have gone up, and the farmer has not participated the same way. So maybe I shouldn't have used that example, but if you have a decent business, I mean, you buy into a business. You don't buy a stock that wiggles around, and people understand that.
It gets dug out of the ground in Africa, or someplace. Then we melt it down, dig another hole, bury it again and pay people to stand around guarding it. It has no utility. Anyone watching from Mars would be scratching their head.
Same thing 5 or 6 years ago had been wrong. But if we, under the present slope, it still would cost more to lengthen it out. But you're lengthening it out at very, very low rates. And it would be what I would be inclined to do if I were Secretary of Treasury, but I'd have missed a lot of bets in the last 10 years too.
Warren, again, for people who are just waking up, they're tuning in and they want...
Stocks are probably still the best of all the poor alternatives in an era of inflation. At least there if you buy in at appropriate prices.
Higher income for people, not necessarily a higher minimum wage, but I do not think it's at all unreasonable that the income tax credit produces at least $15 an hour, maybe higher in certain areas.
China. Buffett invested in PetroChina Company Limited and in a rare move, posted a commentary on Berkshire Hathaway's website stating why he would not divest over its connection with the Sudanese civil war that caused Harvard to divest. He sold this stake soon afterwards, sparing him the billions of dollars he would have lost had he held on to the company in the midst of the steep drop in oil prices beginning in the summer of 2008. In October 2008, Buffett invested $230 million for 10% of battery maker BYD Company, which runs a subsidiary of electric automobile manufacturer BYD Auto. In less than 1 year, the investment reaped over 500% return. In May 2018, BYD's shares had a substantial fall with a total net investment loss of $9 billion. This was Buffett's worst investment in China.
It was my first love, absolutely. I tell the other companies that you can compete for my second love, but you can't compete for my first love, which is Geico, because it goes back 69 years, and it did wonders for me. Anyway, Geico, Bill Roberts took over a little less than 2 years ago, and then in either October or November last year, he said he'd like to retire in a year. He would adjust it in any way that made it the easiest for us. And we did not have the person, in my view, to replace him at that point. And Todd Combs, he's worked with Berkshire now for 10 years.
Tobacco. During the RJR Nabisco, Inc. hostile takeover fight in 1987, Buffett was quoted as telling John Gutfreund, "I'll tell you why I like the cigarette business. It costs a penny to make. Sell it for $1. It's addictive, and there's fantastic brand loyalty." Speaking at Berkshire Hathaway Inc.'s 1994 annual meeting, Buffett said investments in tobacco are fraught with questions that relate to societal attitudes and those of the present administration. "I would not like to have a significant percentage of my net worth invested in tobacco businesses. The economy of the business may be fine, but that doesn't mean it has a bright future." Coal. In 2007, Buffett's Pacify Corp., a subsidiary of his Mid-American Energy Company, cancelled 6 proposed coal-fired power plants. These included Utah's Intermountain Power Project Unit 3, Jim Bridger Unit 5, and 4 proposed plants previously included in PacifiCorp's Integrated Resource Plan. The cancellations came in the wake of pressure from regulators and citizen groups. Renewable energy. Native American tribes and salmon fishermen sought to win support from Buffett for a proposal to remove 4 hydroelectric dams from the Klamath River owned by PacifiCorp, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company. David Sokol responded on Buffett's behalf, stating that the FERC would decide the question. Expensing of stock options. He has been a strong proponent of stock option expensing on corporate income statements. At the 2004 annual meeting, he lambasted a bill before the United States Congress that would consider only some company-issued stock options compensation as an expense, likening the bill to one that was almost passed by the Indiana House of Representatives to change the value of pi from 3.14159 to 3.2 through legislative fiat. When a company gives something of value to its employees in return for their services, it is clearly a compensation expense. And if expenses don't belong in the earnings statement, where in the world do they belong? Technology. In May 2012, Buffett said he had avoided buying stock in new social media companies such as Facebook and Google because it is hard to estimate future value. He also stated that initial public offering of stock are almost always bad investments. Investors should be looking to companies that will have good value in 10 years. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. In an interview with CNBC in January 2018, Buffett said that the recent craze over Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies won't end well, adding that when it happens or how or anything else, I don't know. But he said he would not take a short position on Bitcoin futures. In terms of cryptocurrencies, generally, I can say with almost certainty that they will come to a bad ending. This was a story of success about Warren Buffett's political and public policy views. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe and join us for more.